was a more formal hat that was easily carryable to carry about for the opera or whatever, for the city wear. It was more lightweight, and so to make it more lightweight, they only have one ply of gossamer. But now that they cannot make silk plush anymore, because actually they can, there's a man in India that wanted to make it again. I read the story through the company that was owned. I will post the story on my Instagram, never mind, but they can actually technically make silk plush again. Nobody just wants to invest in it. So if you want to invest in it and can tag it shop in India, it would be difficult for the reasons that follow. Now I'm taking the hypothesis of somebody who needs to have everything made, but he is on a normal budget like myself, maybe a bit more, a little bit less. And that shop in India, he will not rediscover the process just for you, just to make that much of silk plush. He was about to do it, but then the chap who commissioned him to do it, he wanted to restart the industry. He died, so it was never made. So yes, to restart an industry, it is worth having all the machines and all again. But just for one fella, even if he agrees, imagine what it would cost you for he just to make that much. And he would have to make a Tesla for that, you would have to pay a little bit. It's so complicated. So ideally, just forget about the silk plush. If you can find a vintage silk plush hat that fits you, just get it. If you want that black style, you would only find it in black. If you are much bigger than me, like with a bigger head, you will not find realistically a hat from the 19th century. You will not even find something from 1920, 1930, or even afterwards. They will not be exactly the same, but that would be the most similar you can get. Otherwise, you can get something way more like in the 1890s, made for you, or made by you if you want to become a hatter. That is more complicated and dangerous than becoming a cloth maker. But then there's no point of it containing any gossamer. So do not get these British companies who want to make it with gossamer. They also make some without gossamer, but they are not that accurate, and they cost so much. And they tell you that because they are the only ones left who are doing with gossamer, but gossamer costs us nothing. It is literally a film. They used it in France until recently, until 20 years ago, to wrap cheese in it. So do you think it will cost a lot? It is simply a gauze fabric of cotton. They call it gossamer once it has been treated, literally just dipped into a mercury solution called shellac, and it becomes hard. That is what gossamer is. Very cheap material. And there is no point having a gossamer structure for the hats they make, which are made out of felt. It makes no sense. No. Oh, because they made them out of fur. No, it makes sense with the hats that are fur plush, because again, fur plush cannot hold by itself. Fur plush is when the skin has not been ripped off the hair. So what we usually imagine as fur, the skin underneath the hair, the skin is still there. Fur felt, like they build the butcher's hats, or there's fedora hats, many hats made out of fur that are actually fur felt. What does it mean? It means that they remove the hair from the skin and put it in many solutions, step by step, that condense those flowing hair together, stick them together, and it makes a cloth without the skin. Unless if you go with fur plush, in other words, the skin and the hair, it still looks like the original hair of the animal. So let one say a beaver. A beaver fur plush hat would look like a shower carpet of beaver. It would look awful, but if you want to go with that, it cannot hold by itself. You can dip it into the purest mercury shellac solution. It made illegal now since the 1940s as you want. It will only end up melting it. The only way it can hold as a hat structure, whether it be a Hamburg hat, or top hat, or ball hat, is to have a form underneath it. One way is to make a felted form, which will have the hat be super heavy. So the other way is to have a shellac, gossamer form. But most people do not want that style. That style is not popular. So the thing that will look most like the silk plush top hat is, I think, a velvet. It is called velvet beaver. What's it called? Velvet beaver? Or beaver plush? No, velvet beaver, which is really a beaver felt. So the hair is made into a felt. It has been brushed down so much by the hatter that it looks very soft and shiny, but the hair have a tendency of going like that, so then you need to put oil, or at least what I did, which is actually easy, pure beef tallow that you melt and you put a lot of it. I think oil is better for that, and it will weigh it down just like your hair. It will weight it down, stick the hairs together, and then it is brushed, and that ideally would look most like the silk plush. To tell you, and they don't even make this in honey hats, they only make rabbit fur, which costs much less, and then to tell you to brush it with water, it will not look anything like the silk plush. It will look like the silk plush when it is not brushed, but when it is brushed, it looks much shinier than that. And the thing I saw which looked closest was actually, but it is much more expensive, that velvet fur felt. One of the most expensive fur felt. Velvet beaver fur felt, that is what it is. Not rabbit felt, but you can't even get velvet rabbit fur felt. And I think a lady called Jen Walton, who does the entire process, I think, by hand. Not using any modern techniques, I don't know things there. And she does it with one person only, so technically it is more VIP and it costs a fraction of the price of what honey hats and all charge you. And I think she uses gossamer for her women's hats. She also does a lot of men's hats to look very accurate. So if she uses gossamer, if I'm right, and she uses gossamer for the women's hats, she obviously can for the men's hats. She just has not done it yet because she did not see the necessity, because as I explained, there is no necessity for the men's styles except for the silk plush. But how to make a silk plush, bowler, fedora, top hat, whatever, when a silk plush is no longer existent? So she did not see the need. But if that is still what you want, she can make it for you, I guess. It would just cost a bit more, because she will have to use she will have to use an extra material called gossamer, and especially that is where the upcharge comes into place. You'll have to actually shape the gossamer into a hat form before shaping the material the material people see of the hat on top of that. So it adds work, maybe double the work. But if you go with the velvet, if you want the silk plush style and all, for bowler or top hat or whatever, do not get a gossamer form. It will only make it more fragile and less repellable. So in other words, it will cost more but less comfortable. You will overheat in it. It will be heavier for it to be less strong and less practical and less repellable, and it will take longer to make and be more complicated to make. So what is the point? Absolutely none. This is only called sabotage. So contact Jen Walton. Had top hats that look very accurate, made purely of beaver, even beaver. I think the beaver one starts at 400 or 350 pounds. If you use the same crap fur to use in honey hats, which is not very crap, but honey hats charges 500 for that. She only charges 200, which is the normal price, which is rabbit fur or hare fur. And then you can also make it out of wool, but the wool ones are very cheap. And her hats, I saw them, they are very accurate. They look more like the original piece, especially the lining she does is much better than the ones honey hats do. They are awful. And also because honey hats, you're dealing with an entire company and you have no say whatsoever. Even if you tell them, change the lining, make it more period accurate, and no, they will tell you yes on the phone or in live, and then they will still do their own thing, because the information has to pass to 300 persons. They will not bother passing it. They will not care. They do not care about you. She cares about you. You will only deal with one person. You will deal with a single person that touches your hat. So if you tell her her lining is accurate, but it does not look like a British lining, or I want something different, if she says yes, okay, she will do it for sure, because she knows that then you will yell at her and she does not have that much money, and she will do it. So for the hats, that is the solution. Problem: is the fur treated by her? No. She buys pre-treated furs, and are these furs made, whether it be rabbit fur, whether it be even wool felt, so not fur, or whether it be a hare fur, nuptia, which is cheap, I think it's like a small animal, or a beaver fur, are they treated the same manner in 1890? In other words, using the same chemicals and or the same dosage of chemicals, the same dosage of mercury compared to the other urine. Do they even use urine anymore? I think they do, but not the same urine. to use animal urine, that